Hey guys, it's Marlana Alvarez, and this is the Unfiltered Agent podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, hello. This is my awesome friend Wayne, who just so happens to be a home inspector here in Lakeland. He does so much good for my clients to keep them protected and is definitely on mission with me and my goals and values, which is to protect buyers and sellers from the unknowns, that the things that they don't know about either a house that they're going to buy or maybe a home that they're going to list. So Wayne, thank you so much for being here today. The biggest concern I have with buyers and sellers, and you may be watching this or listening to this because you are getting ready to buy a home and you don't know what a home inspection is. And we want to clear that up because a lot of people, either they don't know what a home inspection actually does, they don't know the value of it, they don't know what type of inspections they should get when they buy a house, and they're just not confident in the process. So I want Wayne to help clear all that up, answer all these questions. He is super passionate about people, about the industry, about protecting consumers to help them make really good informed purchasing decisions that they will not regret later. That's why I had him on the show today. So thanks for being on. And let's start out. So I had a couple questions I wrote down, and the first one was, so what exactly is a home inspection? I know it sounds very basic, but a lot of people don't know.
So home inspection is basically a snapshot in time, because people ask me, well, how long does this home inspection last, or how is it good for it? I'm like, the moment I leave, it can change. A storm comes through, whatever. So the goal is to look at the systems, the electrical system, the plumbing, AC, the roof, and the structure. Those are kind of the 5 main pieces you want to look at. And there's a lot of homes here in Lakeland that are from the 1970s and earlier, and they have a lot of things going on with them that if you don't investigate past the, well, it looks cute, right? If you don't go past that part, you won't know. And we find all the time stuff that's put on the MLS, and the MLS is very flowery in its description. Fair enough. They're trying to make the house seem beautiful, and they are, but we have to do a little bit of digging to make sure that things are what they're advertised to be. They're getting what they're paying for. That's what we're trying to bridge the gap on is, and in all fairness, if you're buying something, you want to know that it has the value that you're purchasing it for.
When I'm introducing my clients to the home buying process, and I stress the importance of having a home inspection, what I always tell my clients is the inspection report is going to tell you anything that makes this house less than 100%. If you pay for the full home inspection, which I highly recommend all my clients do, is he's going to give you a full 360 degree to the best of their knowledge and ability to see. So you guys, if you correct me if I'm wrong, but you can only report on what you can visually see in the inspection. You can't look through walls. You can't look under the ground and all that kind of thing, into the floor. Essentially, you can go under the house, right? But you can only see what you can see. You know, if there's only 6 inches of crawl space, you're not going to be able to get to that section of the house. And they note that on the report, and Wayne does a great job of documenting what he isn't able to see. But they're going to give you that 360 degree view of the house, so you know what you're buying. If you don't do a home inspection report, you don't know what you're buying. To go to your point, they're going to, on the MLS description. So when you're looking on Zillow, you're looking at the photos and you're looking at what the seller and the listing agent have done as their write-up. They're trying to sell this house, right? They want to point out all the good things about it. And in Florida, they're not legally required to fill out a seller's disclosure. It's not law. They do not have to do one. Now, they legally can't withhold material defects that they know about that affect the value of the home. They cannot do that. But we don't know what they know about and don't know about. That's why what Wayne does is the most important part of this process, because I can open all the doors. I can give you my professional advice and opinion if you're my client, but I can't do what Wayne does. So I wanted to go into what is the process. So when one of my clients hires you and you're going to take them on, what's the first thing that you do once you get to the property?
We have a system. We do it every time the same way. And the reason for that is so that we don't miss anything. So we go right and stay right. So if we're on the outside of the house, and that way also when they read the report, there's a map in people's mind understanding how we went around the house. So we're trying to check systems. We're looking at, and the big things are from the outside of the house or on the exterior is going to be things that create leaks or safety problems or structural issues. That's the big things. On the inside, when we're going around the house, we're talking about things that don't work, like a door is sticky or a window doesn't open properly, all those things. But truth be told, the real money in the home inspection is making sure you're not going to have to replace an entire system. What happens often is we'll go on the houses that are built, let's say pre-1960, and they'll put a new electrical panel in, which is awesome. And it's got new wires in the electrical panel. And what they'll do is they'll chase those new wires into the attic and then junction box all the old wires that were in there before to that. So your entire house is filled with old wires that are either not grounded, safety hazard, name the thing. And on the listing, it says, oh, it's a brand new box. Yes, but all the wires running through the entire house are not. So those are the things that you don't know until you know. Another problem is dealing with home insurance. As you well know, we have conversations with agents all the time, and we try to ask questions of the underwriter to get a better understanding of what they want, because it seems like a moving target, just to be honest. So we're trying to figure out what to do to help people so they're not paying more money than they should on their homeowners. And it's finding out that you have cast iron for drain pipes in your house instead of PVC. Well, if that's true, you only get certain insurance here in Florida, and a buyer needs to know that before they purchase. So if they're buying a house and they look at 2 or 3 houses, one's built in 1960 and has cast iron pipes, and one's built in 1980 and has PVC pipes, same square footage, so on and so forth, there might be a difference in the cost of your insurance if you buy either house.
Right. Or coverage. Because like you can still get insurance on, say, for like right now we're sitting in a 1925 house. This house has cast iron plumbing. It is somewhat replaced, but not all of it. So I'm not going to get water coverage, which if you have never had homeowners insurance or you've never even looked at your policy, you may not know what that means. Water coverage is basically if you have a pipe bust and it leaks, is the limit to what your lender's going to cover, or your insurer's going to cover to fix the problem. If you got an older home that doesn't have PVC, like what he's talking about, it's going to cost you more, or they may exclude it from the policy, and that's not good. And you need to know that going into it. And what Wayne's job is to verify all those systems. So how old is the roof? Will it pass, for your insurance company, what the minimum requirements that they need? Is it got old, outdated electrical? Like, is the HVAC work? Are there any major safety hazards that's going to be a big concern? Because not only do you need to look at this and know what you're buying, but the insurance company is also going to be looking at his 4-point inspection, which is a summary of the full report, which we'll talk about different kinds of reports in a minute. But it's very important that you have that info. And I have some clients that really don't understand the importance of that 4-point being good until they get to the insurance part of trying to find somebody to cover their house.
Yeah, and that's something that we talked earlier, we're doing, some realtor services. We're trying to do things earlier in the sales cycle to help people be aware of what's going on. There's a standard building practices for different decades and different areas. So I know the FBC, the Florida Building Code, and I'm not a code enforcer. I just understand what is and what isn't code. Different decades and different years had different codes. Knowing that going in and different building materials that they use at that time, sometimes I don't even have to go out to the house to understand the majority of what needs to be done on the house. And being able to help people make decisions and understand between the insurance scenario and then also the cost of repairs, I'm hoping it'll empower people make decisions on homes they're probably going to live in for 10, 15, years to come with their families. My goal is to have them come in and go, I really enjoyed the decision that I made and I feel good about it and I can create a life here. Not, man, I regret buying this house. That's the goal for me.
Right. And that's my goal as well. And when I go into a house, I've remodeled a bunch of homes. I own a bunch of homes myself. So I'm looking at it from a lens of, okay, how is the situation with this house? What's the roof like? What's the electrical box look like? Is all the plumbing? I'm looking under cabinets. Well, your realtor may not be doing that when they're walking through the house. Okay. So from this episode, I really want you guys to take the importance of taking your time to do the due diligence before you even go under contract to make the offer. Find out, like what Wayne's talking about, when the roof was put on, when the electrical box, are there any permits pulled? And that's actually something that Wayne helps me with for my clients before we even go under contract, is finding out all those bits of information. You need to know those things. When the HVAC unit was put in, have there been any major issues with the house? Is there anything that the seller knows about that's occurred? if you don't know and you don't ask, a lot of times they're not going to tell you. Just forthcome and just give it to you without, a little bit of investigation.
There's some nuance. So like on one we did just recently, the MLS listed the roof as being a 30-year-old roof. Just so everybody knows, I've been on thousands of roofs at this point. Here in Florida, architectural roof here in Florida will last about 20 years. There is no such thing as the 30. Now it's sold as a 30-year roof, but here in Florida, between the sun, the rain, and it just doesn't last that long. But they'll list it as a 30-year roof, which is fair enough what it is. And the roof was 16 years old. I know before going out that anything 15 years old or older, even if I step on it and go, yep, it's in perfect condition, the insurance underwriter is going to say it needs a new one automatically. Those are the kind of nuances that I think the person buying the house and looking at stuff will go, oh, well, they think it's got something that's great, which it's got something that's nice, but it doesn't mean it necessarily translates into it's going to work for you in the long run. And I think that's where you advising folks, look into stuff, me doing a home inspection, making sure everything's the way it's supposed to be. I think that little bit of effort and cost, whatever, will pay dividends in the future.
I've had home inspections save us thousands and thousands of dollars. So I want to go back a little bit. So when you're doing the report, you're looking at all the components of the house. You're going through checking all the major systems, like you said, the roof, the electrical, the plumbing, the heating and cooling system, and there may have been one other thing I didn't mention, but you're going and looking at all the components of the house to make sure all the doors and windows work. There's no major safety problems. And one of the things as a real estate agent that we love about this as well is we're able to take that info and help our clients in their due diligence period. Because when you buy a home, typically you're going to get an inspection period that gives you time to have somebody like Wayne come in, look at the house, give you your report, and you're going to review it, with your family, with your inspector, with your agent, and decide what you want to do, right? What is awesome about Wayne's reports is that it gives you a summary of all the problems, and not just the problems, but all the information about your house. So you understand where things are located, where the issues are that need to get repaired. So he just did an inspection for a good friend of mine a couple weeks ago, and we went through the report and it looked pretty decent. There weren't anything that was glaringly wrong that was like a deal breaker for my client. So we decided that we were going to move forward with a house, but the air conditioner wasn't working great. It had 2 units, and Wayne went and did the inspection, and it turned out I think it was a capacitor, had gone out, and it was a $780 repair that the seller actually was able to make for us because we said, hey, our inspector found this on our report. We really want to get this taken care of before we move forward. And they were able to go, and we didn't know how much it was necessarily going to cost because I didn't send anybody out there to get an estimate for them, but I was not expecting it to cost $700. And had Wayne or somebody other than Wayne gone out there and said, well, it's working, but it's just not as cold, but you may not want to worry about that. But since Wayne went out there and did it, and he had all the info, we said, we're going to ask for this anyway. We ended up getting a huge problem avoided. Yeah. So my client didn't have to go and go to closing, then go and move into her new house to realize her house won't get below 80 degrees. It's those little things that really add up. Or you have a client who Wayne goes and does a home inspection for, and he finds something that is unknown to the seller, unknown to the buyer, but it is a deal breaker. And in that inspection period, we're able to use that report to submit to the seller to either get a huge reduction on the price, get something repaired, or pull out if that's what's necessary. And that's the importance of what Wayne does for your buyer. If you're an agent, or, if you are the consumer, that's what he's going to do for you, or someone who does what he does. You can't be as compelling, I don't think, if you are just the homeowner going and submitting a list. Because if technically a homeowner could go in and say, this is broke, but Wayne is a third party objective expert who can go through your house that you're looking to purchase and give you a real picture of what's going on with it. And like you said earlier, like, you don't get paid anymore if you find problems or not. Your main goal and focus is to protect people.
Yeah, and put into context, we document things knowing and explaining what the cause is and how to fix it. let's say you're a general contractor and you build houses and know all the things, and you come through and look at a place. Are you crawling underneath the crawl space of the house to find out if there's, so, and here's another, example. We'll go in a house that's been remodeled, older house, and they have what's called stub up, is where the plumbing from the crawl space comes in and it's all PEX or CPVC. It looks beautiful. I crawl underneath the crawl space and find out that it's galvanized. Back to the insurance thing is that if you report something on their insurance that's not what it is, they won't cover it. If you have a problem and something happens, the insurance company's like, so sorry, that wasn't on the report. We're not covering that for you. So it's pretty important. And I keep bringing the insurance stuff up, but it's just, that's a big factor here in Florida, is to make sure that what you submit, what's available to them, allows you to get good coverage and allows you to not have any surprises where you're having to spend thousands or tens of thousands of dollars repairing systems just so you can get decent homeowners insurance.
100%. And, people always, I shouldn't say people always, but I've had scenarios where buyers are like, well, can we just get the inspector to just leave that off the 4-point? Or can we not have that because I know it's going to make my insurance, I'll go and fix it later. What Wayne is saying is that he would never not report what's accurately in the house. You're always going to have an accurate reflection of the reality of the home. Because if you did get insurance and you did have a major problem and it wasn't right, or maybe the inspector put it on there and then you decided to just go get insurance and do what you want and get somebody else to go back and change it, you're on the hook for the problems that they don't report if you had a roof leak. And I own several houses, and thank God I've not really had any insurance claims until recently. And just to stress the power of a 4-point inspection. So when I bought my home, it did not have new plumbing. I bought it with the original galvanized plumbing in it, and it was awful. I didn't think too much about it because when it's all still sealed up and in the walls and you don't have to look at it, you just turn the sink on and off. You don't realize how bad it is, right? You don't realize how brittle and just easily decay. It just falls apart, I didn't realize that until I went and was remodeling my hall bath and I took my vanity out and we cut the pipes because we had to stub it out to put the new plumbing in and to connect the new sink and the new vanity because the connections had to be moved. And man, that stuff just fell apart. I looked inside of that galvanized plumbing supply line and it was like so tiny. There was no water pressure because the pipes had corroded so badly. I was like, to heck with this. I am going to just replumb my whole house. I had somebody come out there and run brand new plumbing and it's beautiful. And I didn't get a new 4-point done right away. I should have, but I didn't. I waited about a year before I actually had my 4-point updated because it was really out of necessity because at the first of the year, my insurance reset and it was a lot more expensive than it was before. A lot of people experienced that at the beginning of this year and we're getting more 4-points. And you probably did a lot of those for people trying to get better deals on their insurance. And I was one of those people. I got a 4-point done and that had then reflected my new plumbing that I had put in. And I'd submitted that to my homeowner's insurance company and I got a much better rate and it reflected the new water heater and the new plumbing and all that good stuff. And that everything was good. That was in end of December. January rolls around, everything's fine. February, I go out of town for a vacation with my family and come back on Valentine's Day and my whole house was flooded because one of the lines had burst in my ceiling. I had a blowout from one of the PEX lines from a surge in the plumbing. And if I had not had that updated 4-point, I don't know that my insurance company would have paid out. But because it reflected all the current scenario, it really did work out much better for me. So I will always annually get new inspections because if you ever did have to go back, I have like, look here, you guys, I have reports of where everything was. This is the situation. So I just firsthand experience with it claims. It would have been really bad if I had not had documentation that it was done.
And also it's a price difference. So like my house is built in 1960. I love my house, but it does not come with hurricane straps. That wasn't part. They just took a large nail and nailed the exterior wall to the roofing system with large nails. It's called a toenail. We called different insurance companies and they said, yeah, you'll save some money if you put clips or straps in. Well, sure enough, I had my son who's 20, had him do that. And we wound up saving like $1,400 a year by putting little tiny metal clips all around our house. And I think the same is true. Like, we haven't done the numbers on it because I'm not an insurance agent, nor do I play one on TV, right? But there's a large savings to be had if certain components of certain things are on houses. And that's part of the big, we keep going back to this, but that's kind of the big thing on the savings, is not just the current condition of the home. Does it work, not work? Is it going to cost you more money just to functionally have the house over the years to come compared to another house with the like square footage?
I will attest to this because as a real estate agent, this is part of what I do in actually helping my clients make purchasing decisions, is I work with people like Wayne who can give me that report because he's 100% right. And I never wait until after the home inspection period is over to start getting my insurance quotes. Because, or like, let's say you got two different homes. One was built in 1978, the other was built in 1964. But the 1964 house has all the updated code needed to pass for insurance. And the 1978 house is present just as it is. Nothing's been done. Maybe they put a new floor, new cabinets, new kitchen, whatever. It looks pretty, but it hasn't had the functional updates that the 1960s has. So what can happen is if this has got a 20-year-old roof, but it's got a brand new kitchen, the insurance on that house, and no new plumbing, the insurance on that house is going to be significantly higher. I mean, we're talking thousands a year than the same price point house that is from 1960. Maybe the kitchen isn't as updated. Maybe it's, got the layout isn't as nice, but it's got new roof, new plumbing, new windows, all the things have been redone. All the electrical's been redone and updated in that house. The insurance on that's going to be significantly cheaper. So when you compare the mortgage payments on both houses, the 1960s may be a better deal. It may be a little bit more expensive. Maybe it's $5,000 to $10,000 more a month in the overall sale price than the 1974 with the sexy new kitchen. But this is how you make a purchasing decision. If you really do care about what you're buying in the components, you'll look at the value. So if that one's got a new roof, new water heater, new HVAC system, new plumbing, new electrical, that's significantly better value than just a house with all the original components that a flipper left in the home, but they just made it cute. Like Wayne said before, you can have a lot of these rehabbers who go out there and they just do everything you can see. They put lipstick on a pig and they just do all the components that you can see. But they don't go and spend the money on the things that actually matter, like your heating and cooling systems, like your ductwork, like your electrical panels and all your wiring, your plumbing, your roof, because they know people buy emotionally. They will pay more money for something that they feel is cute and good, and then they'll sell you a huge headache and a huge problem than maybe buying a home that's had an established resident in there maybe for 30 years, but maybe they have all the original shag carpet that needs to be redone. But these people replaced their windows, their plumbing, their electrical, their roof. They cared about the house. They took good care of it. So when I educate my buyers, we're looking at those things. And I ask them, do you want it to be cute or do you want it to be functional? Because if you're in a certain price point, sometimes you can't have both. Or we try and find the blend of both worlds, whatever's going to be the best for them. And just that they know, hey, you may like this sexy, cute bungalow built in 1948 that has all original everything, hasn't had a new roof in, 25 years. You may love this, but understand these are the expenses that you're going to incur in the next 5 years because all these things are going to start breaking. And as long as you're okay with that and you're the client that says, no, I love it, I don't care if it's going to have all these problems, I'm signing up for that, basically. If you're, go for it. I'm all about it. But I want people, when they make a decision, they know what they're getting. Because I want to keep clients forever, just like you do. I want people to refer me to their friends and family. I don't want them calling me with a problem like, oh my gosh, my heater just went out or my air conditioner doesn't work. And they're asking me for recommendations and referrals because all these systems are breaking. So I don't want that. And it still happens, but we've done our due diligence to make sure we can avoid it, right? Stuff
happens for sure. Like the point you're making is like, I'm not Superman. I can't see through walls. There's a bunch of stuff that I can't see. Now I can advise to, hey, if the house was built before 78, there's a likelihood it's going to have lead paint because lead paint was phased out in 78. And a lot of things happened in 78. So PVC plumbing for your drain pipes started in manufactured homes in 78. So there's a bunch of different things that we can just do, basic timelines, and advise people. Like, we can't see it physically. I can say there's a good likelihood that this thing is going to be there. But I'm on the same page as you. It's like, that's something that's heartbreaking for me. Realtors have stigma attached to them, and sometimes home inspectors do too, where there's the, we're trying to play the gotcha. It is heartbreaking for me when I see people that are emotionally invested in a home. We get to close, and then there's all this stuff that's a problem or an issue or what have you. I wish we could figure out a way to do something better so that it's heartbreaking. I don't even know how to say.
Basically, when you have a house that somebody's fallen in love with, you come to do the inspection and you're like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this thing is not ready to go for you. It is not the move-in ready house you thought it was. Right. And it's going to cost you X, Y, and Z. I always advise my clients to go get real numbers especially when big things like that come up. Like, if there's something really scary that comes back in a report, go talk to an engineer, go talk to the structural engineer if it's on the structural, or the HVAC company, or a plumber, or the electricians. Get the estimates, figure out what's actually going to cost you, or the seller if you're asking for a repair, and get the real figures. Extend your inspection period so you know that you know. Don't just say, well, it's probably not that big of a deal. My uncle can probably fix that. Don't assume those things. Do as much due diligence as you can in the front end. And what we saw a lot of back in COVID, when it was at its peak and the market was really busy and it was at 2.5%, is we were having people buy homes without home inspections, without having the opportunity to even know what they were buying. And there was a lot of buyer's remorse out of that. And then people now are stuck in those houses, and it's just a travesty. So don't ever let yourself be a victim of that. Know what you're buying. Even if you only have, don't go to no inspection. If you can do 3-4 day inspection periods, unless you just have money just to like dump into a house, or you're getting such a good deal on it.
And we try to, but everything we try to do, we're trying to do it better than we did the day before. That's our goal. So we're trying to structure our inspections differently as well. So we have different ends of the spectrum. We have an investor's inspection. We're not trying to look at the fit and finish, none of the cabinetry, the floor, none of that. And it's a cheaper price because we're just doing a 4-point, which is the 4 major systems and the foundation, because they're going to come in there and gut the whole place out anyway. So they're just trying to figure out how much of the systems do I have to repair. And then we have all the way up to the people want to have the peace of mind where we'll do top to bottom, full inspection, every nook and cranny. And we're doing sewer scopes and infrared cameras and name the thing in order for you to get a behind the scenes look so that you can check that off the box and go, yep, we did that. It looks good. We did that. It looks good. So that when you move in, part of it too is the quality of life when you move in. So do you really want to move into a house, have all your furniture, everything is nice, and then have to hire a plumber and 3 of his guys to come in and bust up your kitchen floor, tear up the concrete and make that mess while you're trying to function? I like to go get my coffee in the morning, the same time every morning, the same place. I don't want people busting up concrete and having to step over that in a house that I just bought. That's the thing. When
you talk about everything that you guys cover, so you have the different levels of inspection. We talked about a 4-point, and that's the inspection that's sent to the insurance company as well. So keep that in mind. Your insurance company will probably ask you if you're under contract to buy a home, do you have a 4-point? We'd like to see it, because it's going to give them the most accurate quote for you, right? On that home you're looking to buy. Now there's other inspections too. What other inspections are there that you guys provide for insurance for the homeowner? There's like a wind mitigation. Is there anything else?
Yeah. So we'll kind of put them in 2 buckets. One is going to be all and any inspections you need for the insurance, and then all and any inspections you get for purchasing decisions. And there's a crossover between them, but the insurance company wants their stuff on their form created by them, or, they throw rocks at me. I don't know what to say, but they want their stuff. So the home inspection, we have 3 different tiers. One is, like I said, the investor's inspection that just goes over the basic stuff. So an investor knows, hey, I'm gutting this place out, but I need to know how much of the systems am I going to have to redo, how much money is going to come out of my pocket for the bigger ticket items. The next thing is just a regular home inspection, top to bottom, all the fit and finishes, But what it doesn't include is all the extra stuff like a sewer scope, infrared cameras. So to give you some perspective, a sewer scope is someone literally taking a small camera on an end of a hose or a cable and going on the roof line and sending that through all your drain pipes. And the camera is videotaping the whole way down to ensure, like in an older house, you have cast iron and it might be okay, or it might be spots are broken, damaged, or whatever. Or let's say, I think the sewer scope may cost around like $400. So for $400 to do a sewer scope, instead of moving in the house and then you're spending thousands or tens of thousands of dollars ripping up flooring and tearing out stuff because now your bathroom is flooded and everything's, and please understand, I'm not trying to use scare tactics. I'm just saying this is the reality.
This is a real problem for us in Florida.
Yeah, this is what it is.
Yeah,
you know. So that's
as somebody who's had their toilets overflow because they had broke cast iron plumbing.
Yeah. Then you know.
I know. It's a real thing. It sucks when your toilets are overflowing and they won't flush and because you have a busted pipe, and it would have been great to know that. And would it have changed my decision to buy the house? Probably not. I probably still would have bought it, but I would have known it was going to be something I was going to have to spend money on later, and that would have been cool.
So there's that bucket, and then there's the wind mitigation and 4-point. And the wind mitigation, and when people call us to get wind mitigation, it's like, can we get the wind litigation or the wind? Are you going up in our attic with a fan? I'm like, no, we're not doing any of that. What they're really trying to find out is if hurricane comes or wind comes, how well will the house withstand and not collect damage? That's what they're trying to assess, and how much the liability they're going to have to put out money on your house if it gets damaged. That's what they're trying to figure out. And they do that by the roof, the way the roof is attached, and then all of your openings, your windows, doors, all that stuff. That's that. The 4-point, again, is the roof, electrical, HVAC, and plumbing. They're trying to figure out the materials used, what conditions it's in, and is there a current problem? Does it leak currently? Does your plumbing leak? Are you seeing a drip here next to the sink or next to the toilet? When we get up in the attic, is there effervescence where you can see where there's a leak and it's got that little white crystal-y looking stuff? Right. That's a telltale sign that this has had a problem. So that's what they're trying to determine. So what we're providing for the client is really a hybrid of the two, and we do them at the same time. And the reason why we do them at the same time is because in order for you to get a house here, you need to get the homeowner's insurance. And really, I don't know of any insurance company that doesn't want a 4-point and or wind mitigation. Yeah. So we just do everything at the same time while we're doing everything else. And then you get the report sent out to you. One is the home inspection that has bunches and bunches of pictures and comments. And then the 4-point wind mitigation that's specifically sent to the agent so that they can send it to the underwriter. That's kind of the two buckets. Yep.
And they won't, typically I would never send a full inspection to an insurance company. I just send them the 4-point. That's all they need. They wouldn't even know how to read the other report. Like you said, it's just really important that all those things are there for them. Because if you don't have if you have an inspector and they haven't sent you the 4-point with your full inspection report, you're going to be asking them for this. So just keep that in mind. Ask them, hey, where's my 4-point? Or do you do the 4-point as part of your service? Is it extra to get that? Is it extra to get the wind mitigation included? So just keep that in mind if you're not using Wayne, which if you're watching this from somewhere else in the country, you probably won't be, but make sure that you have that, because you're going to need that when it comes to getting your insurance bound, and do that as soon as you can. Preferably before your inspection period's over. Start quoting. As soon as he gives you the 4-point, get on the phone with an insurance agent so you can get an idea what it's going to cost you. So we know you guys do the reports and inspections for everything that is involved in the home itself. What about other inspections people need for the house that maybe you don't provide? What do you recommend to people that they get, maybe in addition to what you already are doing?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of those. So in our industry, as a home inspector, I can do things that are under my licensing, and there's a bunch of stuff that I cannot. And there's a bunch of stuff that's a gray area, to be truthful. But like, if we have a house that has a septic tank, I'm not doing a septic inspection, and I tell you why. There are septic companies that are going to come out with a tanker, empty it out, get inside of it, run tests on it, and so on and so forth. I'm not doing that. I don't have the desire or the equipment to be honest with you, to do that. And what I'm going to give you is going to be a cursory or a very surface level understanding of things instead of the in-depth inspection they're going to do. So that's one. A well test. Someone who's going to come out and make sure that the well is potable, or it has water that you can drink out of. There's no bacterial problem or
contamination.
Yeah, contamination. And they're going to go through the whole cycle of this. They need to be hired in. The guys that do the WDO, or the wood destroying organism, the pest control.
It maybe that's what it's called here in Florida. It may be called something else, but it's the inspections that do for termites, wood destroying organisms, water damage, moisture issues, stuff like that, right?
Yep. And those guys come in, and a lot of guys we use, even all the different services I'm talking about. So what we do then is we act as a service to call out those other folks at the same time we are. And then at one time you get all those things done.
Which is super helpful.
Right.
But your inspector may not offer that. So ask them what other inspections they recommend, right? Do you guys do pools in your inspections?
Yep,
so that's included. And not all inspectors do pools, right?
And there's different levels too. Like, so we do, and it's really just dependent on what is the comfort level of information for the client. So a basic pool inspection is making sure that the water level, like you can look at a pool, and if the curbing or the side of the pool is taller to the water than it is somewhere else, you have a problem. It means that there's a heave up, or there's a crack, or there's something going on in the structure of the pool. Super simple stuff, common sense, but if you don't know to look for it, you don't know to look for it. And then there's also, if, hey, we think this thing is leaking water, I'll have a specialist come in and they'll dive and put dye throughout the pool. And where the dye gets sucked in or showing that the water's leaving the pool, you can definitively know that you have a leak in your pool and where. It's different levels of what information people need, what they feel comfortable with. Like I said, some people just want investors. Hey man, I just want to know if this thing is going to stay standing, and I need to know how much I need to spend for what system. And then we have people who are like, hey, this is going to be our forever home. We're going to live here for 15 years, do the works so that we just know that we know and have documentation and pictures to prove it. And so that's kind of what we're doing.
When you find something on a report, do you ever advise like other inspections? Like if you find something really like concerning, do you ever go and like say, hey, you need to get this checked out?
For sure. So our big thing is, as a home inspector, we're a generalist. I'm not a licensed electrician. I'm not a licensed plumber. If there's a problem or even a hint of a problem, the goal is, hey, get a licensed electrician in here, have them apply their professional understanding to what I'm seeing, and get a quote just to make sure, because this could be a much bigger deal. Like the stuff I'm seeing is a problem, but they might come out here and there's a bigger problem than my short window of time looking at stuff didn't afford, because I'm looking at everything. And that way that can protect the client against bigger problems. So yes, we always recommend, hey, if there's something we see, a problem or nuance, please have a licensed electrician, licensed plumber come out and look at it.
That's what I do too. And I don't know that all realtors and all inspectors do that, but you have to be your own advocate. And so if you're watching this video or you listen to this podcast, you're somebody who cares about the process and being informed, and know that if something big like that comes up, you're going to want to get the right person out there that is the specialist, is the plumber, is the electrician, is the roofer. Get real costs of what things are to repair. Be an informed consumer so you know what you're buying.
Yeah, not Bubba.
Yeah, don't get your uncle to go look at it, or your dad who, bought a couple houses back in the 80s. While their opinions are valuable and we care, go a step further and get the real expert, Just to wrap this up, you've given us so much awesome info, and I hope a full picture of what people should expect when they get a home inspector in their house and why it's so important. But what advice would you have to a new buyer who's going to be buying a home for the first time and is starting to shop for a house?
The hard part of going and looking to buy a new house is you feel like a lamb going into slaughter, almost, like, because we do a lot of new home buyers, and there's so many things that they don't know. It's overwhelming. So the thing I would say is this: if try to look at things objectively, not emotionally. And that is super tough because you fall in love with an area, you fall in love with a house, figure out what makes sense for you before you go looking at a house. Meaning, are you interested in remodeling? If not, you need to take certain houses out of the equation. If you're wanting to have a house that is needing upkeep as far as like the outside of the house is concerned, or it's got a lot of land, it's cute, but it's got a lot of land and you're not an outdoor type of person that's willing to trim and cut and whatever. Here in Florida, everything grows an inch per day. So, I mean, you know what I mean? So either you can afford to hire somebody or want to do that as part of your upkeep. The real simple answer is be self-aware of what it is you want out of your house. How do you want the house to treat you? How do you want to live in your house? And be self-aware, make a list of things that you want out of the house and how it's going to function. So before you go to a house and it has appeal and you just fall in love with it and find out that it either has problems or just it won't work for you, you're kind of prepared ahead of time. And then also get an awesome real estate agent who will walk you through the process and make sure and ask good questions to make sure that it's a good fit for you.
It's perfect. I couldn't have said it better myself. You guys, I hope you've learned something today. I hope you found this valuable. Share it with somebody else who may be looking to buy a home or is, just needs to be more informed on what actually goes into a home inspection. Thank you so much, Wayne, for being on the show today. And I hope we can have you back in again soon.
Yeah, thank you.